Free agency is about to start in 2026, and it's going to shake everything up from mega contracts to international signings and integrity storms in the bullpen. Tonight on Back to the Bullpen, we break it all down. The biggest targets, what the Houston Astros might do, and how the recent gambling indictments could ripple across the game. Buckle up.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, and I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat low in the way, you can't hit it. You know you want to start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walk it back, looking like we ain't cool then. The game's over, might as well put them back to the bullpen, oh yeah.
And Mike, we are back in the bullpen. It is the off season. The qualifying offers have been sent out. And we know most people are probably going to be changing hats this year. So before we get started, tell everybody where they can find you, sir.
Yeah, that's going to be on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Mike Stanton 29. Yeah, so World Series is over, unfortunately. What an incredible World Series it was. Game 7, epic, historic. We saw Yamamoto. That's what legends are made of. I mean, he was absolutely amazing, winning 3 ball games. And what did that do? Well, that led us right into, you got to remember, baseball is now a 12-month sport, and that led us right into free agency and the awards, which we'll get to those probably on the next broadcast.
So this is a loaded free agent class, and it's not always loaded. I think last year, the year before, you had Juan Soto, you had Ohtani and all that stuff. But this year, you've got top names like Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, Dylan Cease, Kyle Schwarber, Bo Bichette. I mean, when I say open season for free agents, I think the time is now for these guys to sign. Why? Because 2027 looms. We don't know what's going to happen there. But go ahead and get the money while the getting's good right now. One of the interesting targets here is Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker was said to be aiming for about a $400 million contract. That's dropped, I think, to about 300 to 350. But still, that's a huge amount of money.
How can he ever live on that?
I mean, come on. He's got to feed his family. Do you remember that?
Right.
Do you remember? I think it was Kevin Garnett that said that? Like, we got to feed our family. He was making like $20 million a year. We'll never forget that. That was wild.
Everyone's family.
Everyone's family. Feed all of Minnesota, the whole Timberwolves fan base.
That's right.
But seriously, what do you think of this? The hottest team that is picked to get Kyle Tucker is your world champion Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah. Interesting that is the talking point. To tell you the truth, if money is the only factor, then maybe he does. We've talked about it before. I think, one of the reasons why the Dodgers have been able to just go over and above everyone else has a lot to do with Shohei Ohtani. And the simple fact that he is only getting paid $2 million per year for the next, 8 years, whatever it is, the 10-year contract. That leaves a lot of cash available for them to go out and bring in other players. And that's the reason Shohei did it. Now, they still get hit with the luxury tax number and everything like that. But, the crazy thing is, there was talk after the NLCS when the Dodgers won and they beat the Brewers. You heard Dave Roberts talking about how, the Dodgers are ruining baseball. Well, you know what? That's not what we saw in the World Series. We saw the Blue Jays outplay the Dodgers for a big portion of that World Series, and they were only 2 outs away from knocking them off. And when Miguel Rojas, guy who hadn't played in a month, hadn't hit a home run in 6 weeks. Here's the stat that blew my mind. Okay. That was the first home run that Miguel Rojas hit off a right-hander all season. He waited till the ninth inning of the seventh game of the World Series in order to hit that first home run. So to say that they were some kind of juggernaut or something like that, they're a very good team. There's no doubt about it. They weren't. There were times that we thought that they may not even make the playoffs because of the way the Padres were playing. So, when you're a free agent, and I was blessed enough to go through free agency a few different times. Nothing like these numbers, but I'm not going to complain whatsoever. It's a daunting task, and we can talk about who the suitors are all we want, but you have to remember it's not just about what the player wants. There has to be two to tango. There has to be somebody on the other side willing to pay.
Well, the thing with Kyle Tucker is one of the things that people might look at or teams will scrutinize is some of the injuries he's dealt with.
Yes. And that's one of the reasons why
Right.
the salary could have dropped.
Right. But he still has plus power. He has plus speed. He has great defensive value.
Yes.
He is only 29, so he's on this side of 30, which is good for him. I mean, Dodgers, Yankees, the Cubs are not going to bring him back. I think, I wonder if someone like, I know Detroit is said to be in the hunt for Alex Bregman again. If we look at the other guys, you've got the Red Sox, I think might still be in play if they offer him an extended deal, but I don't know if their owner's into those deals lately. Because he's looking for 6 to 7 years with 200 plus million territory, with Detroit and Philadelphia being possible suitors. Alec Boehm, I believe, will be probably on the move soon, or maybe possibly trade. I mean, Bregman in Philadelphia would be a solid move. Hitting wise, I don't know that that ballpark suits his swing because it's got a deep left field.
Yeah,
but
the ball flies there. I don't think
think
there's a problem there.
Okay.
To me, and a lot of this goes by just knowing the player just with my gut. I think he's one of two places. I still think Detroit, even though Alex and AJ Hinch get along very, very well, and that's the connection that we're talking about to get him to Detroit. I think he would be a tremendous player there. He's not going to hit very many home runs because that's still a big ballpark, even though they've moved the fence in a couple times. Tiger Stadium there in Detroit. The amount of money that it's going to take to put him at third base, I just don't see it. I think there is a better than average chance, I would say maybe 75%, that he goes back to Boston. I mean, he had a tremendous season that he is built for the Green Monster in left field. And from all reports that we've heard, he had a great time there in Boston. He's a Boston type player. That's
right. And they had offered him. I mean, he had $80 million in the next two seasons. So paying him 6 to 7 and 180 or 200 million plus isn't like out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
You've got another guy in Bo Bichette who, do you think there's a chance that now I know the Blue Jays just re-signed or just extended Vladdy on a massive contract.
$500 million. Yeah.
Was I mean, that's a huge contract, but wouldn't it behoove the Blue Jays to at least try to sit down with him and say, look, can we get something done long-term? Yeah. Because you and Vlad Guerrero Jr., that would be a great tandem right there to be on this team for years to come.
The thing is, they probably have. There's probably been conversation, even if there are preliminary conversations, they're, not talking numbers, that kind of stuff. You just don't usually see, it's not unprecedented, but you just don't usually see players go to full free agency and return to the same team, but we'll just have to wait and see. He had a tremendous season. He has gotten better defensively. He's still not a great defensive player. But the dude can hit. We know the dude can hit. The Vladdy contract, I don't think it kicks in till either next year or the following year.
True.
True. So does that have something to do with it? Maybe a little bit, but I just don't know if that organization has that kind of financial wherewithal to tie up, because it's going to take, it's probably going to take, $30 million a year to sign Bo. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, really what we're doing is we're making predictions we really don't know anything about. But, my gut is, other than the Yankees, now George Steinbrenner was notorious for letting his players go to free agency and then turn around and bring them back. And he knew every time he did it, it cost himself money. But he was not someone that liked to sign extensions during the regular season or sign them early. I know he did it to Jeter. I know he did it to Bernie Williams. There were several guys that he did it to. So other than George Steinbrenner, and he's not with us anymore, there's not just very many guys that return to the same team once they hit free agency.
Yeah, exactly. One of the guys that is a hot name on the ticket this year is a guy that's had mammoth year after mammoth year, and the fewest home runs he's hit in Philadelphia, 38, Mike. Kyle Schwarber, 340 career home runs, a lifetime OPS of 846. This guy had an on-base percentage of 365, slug of 563 this year. I mean, this guy's a perennial all-star. This guy's, I think, a first-ballot Hall of Famer. He's so good at what he does. He comes in this year and has a monster year, 56 home runs. He's a guy that I think a lot of teams that are contenders will be looking to add, because that bat still plays and he hits well in the playoffs.
He hits bombs. I mean, tape measure shots. Now, I am not on board. He's not a Hall of Famer yet. We can discuss
really
that about them. Oh no.
Okay.
Okay. What position does he play?
He plays true.
True. Because the only person you have
he's at DH.
And the only person you have that can that is David Ortiz, that you have to compare him to. Listen, he's got big pop. There's no doubt about it, and he has definitely gotten better with age. I think that this could be one. Now, I know I just said that they don't usually go back to the same team. I know Philadelphia wants him back. And, so I think that's a place, but you have to remember, when you spend a boatload of money on a DH, the money's got to come from somewhere. That the money has to be taken away from somewhere else. And him being just a DH and not playing much in the field, that shorts you somewhere else. So what is that contract going to look like? I really don't know. I haven't looked deep into the numbers for Kyle Schwarber. I just know that, the dude is a clutch player. He puts big swings on the ball in the postseason, but he's a DH. And I think there are some teams out there that may have the money that, will at least balk a little bit on signing big bucks to a part-time player.
Yeah, maybe I overstepped a little bit. I guess I just looked at his numbers, and I'm looking at his numbers in Philadelphia and going, this guy has just
because he didn't he was kind of an underachiever before Philadelphia. Like I said, he has gotten better with age.
Now, do you think someone like him has to reach a plateau like 500 home runs
to get to the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's a tough one. I mean, there's got to be longevity. I would say 500 at a minimum, because you have to, like I said, David Ortiz is the only person that you can look at. There's other players that played DH, but they played positions before.
True.
David Ortiz was a first baseman for a little while, but then he became a DH. And, a lot of what Big Papi has been able to do was his just ridiculous numbers that he put up in the postseason.
Now, the last player I want to talk about, because this will actually lead us into some Astros talk, someone that was talked about a lot when it came to the Astros and what they were looking for last year, was one Dylan Cease in San Diego. Dylan Cease is 29 years old. He will turn 30 on December 28th. But he's looking at his market value, and of course, Spotrac, these are all estimations. 26.4 million. Now, if you get Dylan Cease, he was offered a qualifying offer. He turned it down. So you would lose 2 draft picks. But if Framber Valdez accepts accepts a deal from another team, you get their 2 draft picks. So you can kind of miss me on they'll lose 2 draft picks if we sign someone like a Dylan Cease.
Yeah.
How realistic is it that the Astros get a pitcher? And I say one big free, if they make one splash, go out and get a big pitcher like a Cease with the JV or Woodruff with a JV. But Cease, do you think he has a path to Houston at all?
I don't. I just don't see, the Astros were already right at the luxury tax last year. I see them doing the same. The projection is, like $1 million more on their payroll. In 2026 from 2025. They do have some holes to fill. I think that with what the Astros have to do, they need a left-handed bat. They need obviously always need bullpen help. Everybody always does. I just don't see them tying up huge funds. And to tell you the truth, with Dylan Cease being 26 years old, you got to remember they have been very disciplined. They being the Astros have been very disciplined at not giving out, especially to pitchers, really long-term deals. The only long-term deal they've ever done was Lance McCullers Jr., and that was a 5-year deal. And we know how that felt. Now, does the Lance McCullers Jr. contract have anything to do with any of the guys from this year? No, but it still makes you wary of doing it.
Well, they then think about Christian Javier. They gave him his big contract, and then he's been injured. Mm-hmm. So it's happened twice.
Yeah.
But
Christian wasn't huge money.
Right. It wasn't huge, but it was still, it was still pretty significant. Yeah. I think because of the limited work that he had put out.
Yeah.
But the work that he had put out, they were like, oh my gosh, this dude next year is going to take that next step. And he just never did. And so, as we discuss the Houston Astros in this segment, the Astros direction, okay? We know they lack.
Let's touch on the qualifying offers for just one second.
Yes.
Okay, so what the qualifying offers do, that gives the compensation to the team that the player is leaving, gives them a little something for losing. Well, they're not called type A free agents anymore, but losing, big free agents like Framber. Okay, it gives you something in return, that you just don't let the player walk out the door. Now, it's been going on since I think 2011 or 2012. And there's usually somewhere between 12 and 14 qualifying offers a year. This year, there's 13. On average, there's I think there's been 14 players that have accepted the qualifying offer. Okay, most of them do not accept it because they're all looking for long-term deals. We're going to see the same thing this year. I completely expect Trent Grisham from the Yankees to take his qualifying offer. They offered him $22 million. That's what a little bit over $22 million is the qualifying offer. Grisham made $5 million last year. That's it. Made $5 million a year before. So, you're talking about him getting paid 1 year more than he's made in his whole career. A lot of people are really questioning why the Yankees even made the offer, because usually teams are going to make the offer with the idea that the player is not going to accept it.
Not Trent Grisham. Jock Peterson accepted his player option of $16 million. And I kind of joked with some friends of mine. I said, well, y'all just got fleeced. I don't know that Jock Peterson at this point in his career is worth $16 million.
Right.
But of course, prices are a little bit inflated right now.
Yeah. Anyways, that's what the qualifying offer is for. That's why they put it out there. Now the players have, I think, till the middle of the month to either accept or decline it, and then you move on. But there hasn't been very many. Like I said, I think there's been 14.
Has that process been the same for many years, or have they?
Yeah, it started in I think 2012 it started. So it's been the
Okay.
same. Now the number has bumped up every single
Right.
year because where the qualifying offer number comes from is the average of the top, I think, 125
That's correct.
contracts
Yes.
in Major League Baseball any given year. So, they averaged out, and every year it's been bumped up a little bit at a time.
Exactly. No, and I'm glad you stopped me on that going on to the next point, because I almost forgot. That's important to understand what that means. There are so many things that if you're just a casual fan and you try to do a deep dive into baseball, be careful, because
Especially this time of year.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, you've got GM meetings, you got winter meetings, you got international signing, you got all kinds of stuff. Like you said, it is now a 12-month season. But we know, moving on to the Astros in this segment, we know they need rotation depth. We know they're probably going to be looking for another left-handed bat. If I don't think Jesus Sanchez is brought back, and probably some bullpen reinforcement. In starting that conversation, Justin Verlander to me makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot of people who have bucked me on this, who have said, no, man, I'm done with JV. He's 43. We don't need old arms. We need new arms. But Mike, my take is, if you bring him in, it's because you're going to fill in those holes and try to do a 6-man rotation with Justin Verlander.
Sure.
Because coupled with that is, how do you replace 178 to 200 innings of Framber Valdez? And you don't do it with one pitcher. You do it with a few, right?
Well, if you're going to do it with one pitcher, it's going to cost you.
Exactly.
It's going to cost you a big salary. That's why I said earlier, I don't think the Astros are going to be, top feeders. They're not going to be bottom feeders also, but I think that they're, going to be in the middle. And listen, JV's not going to be expensive in the big picture. I would expect it to be probably maybe 10 or maybe $12 million. And then you put a whole bunch of incentives in there.
Exactly.
If he's healthy. When you're talking about a starting pitcher, that's not a lot of money. I mean, you're talking about average, an average, 3-hole pitcher, in the rotation, you're probably looking at $18-19 million. That would be the going rate.
Right. Bringing him in, bringing him alongside, Spencer Arrighetti. Clearly Hunter Brown is your ace. I mean, even if Justin Verlander slots in as a 4 or 5 guy, I mean, this is a guy.
Which that's where you would project him.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're not looking at him throwing 180 innings, but of course, are you going to put it past him? No, I wouldn't do that, because you never know what JV is going to do. Being one of the best pitchers of this generation. So, I think to start off with, PR wise, I think that makes all the sense in the world. It brings some hype. It gives you another marquee name. Gives you another connection to years gone by. A lot of times reunions don't work, but if you go in with the proper expectations, then I think that actually makes sense, and it does give you some depth. You just can't expect him to throw 180 innings.
No, definitely. And what I think a lot of people that come against me on this don't understand is, if you get JV, he would not be the only pitching help that you would you would go out and get.
Well, if he were the only one, that means some other things did not go right.
Right.
Okay. You're not putting a period behind JV's name and saying, okay, we're moving on to another part of the team.
See, I think someone like a Brandon Woodruff, because he is actually, his AAV is about 16 to 17 million. Now, I think when I see the AAV projection of 16 million, I'm going to go ahead and automatically assume he's going to ask for 20. Like, you're not going to come in and go, well, I'm worth this much. You're going to aim high, right?
Always.
So if the Astros can go out and get, my thing is, though, if they go out and get Woodruff and JV, I mean, my holy grail for this offseason that I think is realistic would be Woodruff, JV, and I think Stephen Kwan. You and I have talked about Stephen Kwan. He's a left-handed bat. He doesn't hit home runs. His price isn't that much. I know it kind of creates kind of a quandary.
Well,
with
that's a little different because Stephen Kwan is still a Guardian. Okay, and he's not a free agent.
Okay, I thought he was a free agent.
No, he's not a free agent. You're going to have to trade for him. And, and that's going to be a difficult situation now because, he is a unique player because there's not very many of them. I don't think, as much as I'm a huge fan of Stephen Kwan, I love how he plays the game. I love how he approaches the game, that he's not trying to drive the ball out of the ballpark. Now, we also know that the Astros have kind of reworked their hitting situation as far as their coaching staff. But this has been an organization that wants the ball in the air. Okay, they had a similar player to Stephen Kwan, actually similar only because didn't hit a lot of home runs, was fast, in Miles Straw. And Miles Straw, they still wanted Miles Straw to hit the ball in the air. And I never really understood why that was the case. When you put the ball on the ground, hit some line drives, and you get to use the speed. Now, Stephen Kwan is better than Miles Straw, but they were similar type players. So I don't know if the hitting philosophy for the Astros is going to be able to coincide with a hitting philosophy that Stephen Kwan uses.
See, and that's okay. So you are 100% correct. For whatever reason, I didn't realize that the year that he has an arbitration year.
He's still an arbitration. He's still this year and next year, I think.
Yeah. So it's like
he's a young player. He's been in 3 or 4 years now.
He's 28. He's 28. Yeah. But he's got arbitration 1 year, $8.5 million. Okay. For whatever reason, I thought I didn't see the 2026 when I was looking into him. So, well, but then again, I think he would be.
I would love to see Stephen Kwan as a leadoff hitter for the Houston Astros because he is a menace. Doesn't hit home runs. Now, he would hit a few home runs, at Dyken Park just because you have the short porch. But, his job is to stay inside the ball, hit the ball up the middle, get on base, and start, creating havoc that way.
So someone's asking us, how many innings do we expect Justin Verlander to throw? He threw 157 innings this last year. And in 24, he only threw 90 because he dealt with the injury. But in 23, he threw 162. I mean, you could say, okay, Justin Verlander, we want you to throw 141 innings, and anything after that is this, or, incentives. But I think 140, 150 would be realistic to expect from this year, or do you think it's less?
Well, I mean, if you're going to put a dollar value on it, it's going to be a little, the number of innings will be a little bit higher. Maybe it is 150. And then, if he goes between 150 and 160, he gets another, $1 million or, $1.5 million or something. Like if he goes north of 160, there's another $1 million, and you step it that way. Pitchers don't usually like to do that because there's always ways to manipulate that, the organization, but I don't think they would do that. The Astros have always been, very upfront and, they don't play games that way. It's more about winning games, not saving the dollar.
Right.
But that would be, one of the ways that you could take like that $10 million salary and, you could bump it up, to 14, 15, $16 million if he goes out and he's healthy and gives you, 28 starts.
Exactly. And which kind of moves us to the tail end of our show here tonight. And some news that really rocked the baseball world, man. Emmanuel Clase, who I think was on the way to being one of the better closers in the game.
Oh, filthy.
Dominant. And then Luis Ortiz, that kind of had a little thing going on with a third party. And now they've both faced indictments. They actually released footage of the pitches. One of the pitches thrown that he made $5,000 on was a pitch that he spiked 3 feet in front of the home plate versus the Astros in Dyken Park. But they face, I believe Ortiz has been picked up, but they have not been able to get a hold of Clase. Now, prior to this announcement, Mike, Clase was actually suing the Dominican Summer League because they were not going to allow him to play baseball. So he was trying to sue them because he's like, these are allegations. And now, boom, you're caught red-handed. This is brutal, because what is the one thing that you can do that you cannot do in baseball, right?
The one thing is bet on baseball.
Yeah.
That is the one black eye that Major League Baseball just simply is not going to put up with. I know we've had many other situations of, questionable judgment of, whether it's PEDs or some kind of cheating or substances or whatever it is, those are all bad. And a lot of times there's repercussions that come to that. But the one thing that you don't do is you do not bet on baseball. It goes all the way back to the 1918 World Series, the Black Sox. They were the White Sox, but the Black Sox throwing the World Series. And Major League Baseball, they don't play with that. And, these guys, that their careers are over, I think is probably a given. But it looks like these guys maybe, it's an indictment. You haven't been found guilty of anything yet, but where there's smoke, there's fire.
Now, I want you to share this because you and I talked about it before. I've actually talked about it on Locked On, and of course, and I'll admit, sometimes my theories are flawed. I don't always have all the right answers, and I know. Trust me, if I give an opinion that people think is wrong, they definitely let me know. And so I appreciate your honesty, fans. And some of them aren't really fans. They're more, they probably grit their teeth and are frustrated, but we thank you for listening anyways. But, cause I talked to you and you and I were discussing the Ohtani thing with his interpreter.
Mm-hmm.
And you had said something that I think a sound opinion. And if you don't mind sharing it, where I would say, well, maybe they're just protecting Ohtani. Are you sure Ohtani's not guilty? Surely he knew. What was your response when I was telling you that I think, well, Ohtani's probably guilty. He's the golden boy, blah, blah, blah. What was your counter to that? Because it was an angle that I hadn't really looked at.
Yeah. Major League Baseball is not in that place anymore. You go back to the 80s and the 90s, they kind of covered for players on occasion,
right?
But never with gambling. That has never been something that they've swept under the rug. Somebody goes out and gets in a bar fight. Okay, maybe they cover up, that kind of thing,
right?
But never for gambling. And I just don't see Major League Baseball, even though Ohtani is the best player on the planet, even though, he's making a boatload of money either on the field or off the field. I just don't see Major League Baseball covering for him. I just don't, because it's too much of a black eye. If it turns out that somebody finds out that he really was guilty of something, that's the biggest of black eyes you could give to the industry. So I just don't think, because I understand what you're saying, that the interpreter did it all. He's got, tens of thousands of dollars missing from his account. And he doesn't know anything about it. I know there was, that sounded a little shady, but there was an investigation done by not just Major League Baseball, also done by the FBI, maybe, or one of the the big police organizations, and that's what they came back with. So I understand you kind of raise an eyebrow and go, really, but the Major League Baseball does not play with gambling on this sport.
Yeah, no, and I like to hear your perspective. Number one, you are a part of a very exclusive fraternity in that you played as many years as you did, not just because of the World Series and things like that, but just being in the clubhouse and
Yeah.
I guess, earning that right because that is a fraternity that you guys are in, former players,
And just to
And-
let people know, the gambling on Major League Baseball, really gambling overall, they really frown up, but gambling on Major League Baseball, this is something that every single year, every single team has a meeting and goes over this, just so you can't say, well, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to gamble. No. Everyone knows, even including in the minor leagues. This isn't just a Major League Baseball thing. It's a professional baseball thing that is the number one thing you do not do is you do not gamble on baseball.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's just when I heard about it, when I saw the pitches and how
Yeah.
bad they were, and then I heard so you're sacrificing millions to make a few thousand, and then the third party making 400 grand is what shocked me.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. And we all make bad decisions. We all
Right.
make mistakes and everything, but both of these guys knew exactly what they were doing.
Oh,
They knew
yeah,
that they
this
were
was-
doing against those. And for it to get to this point, to tell you the truth, a lot of times the investigation from Major League Baseball, by the time it becomes public, Major League Baseball has already done their investigation.
Yeah,
This is not
true.
something. We've had several incidences over the years from domestic violence.
Yeah.
And so when something like that comes up, Major League Baseball doesn't run to the podium and say, hey, we have X player X, he did X, Y, and Z. No, they do the investigation first. So by the time it comes out, the player already knows what's going on. The investigation has happened, and he may already have been through an appeal process. So it's not something that just happens. This didn't just happen last week.
Right. Chris Reyes says Hannah Montana said everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. I think this is a little bit more severe than that, though.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about these guys doing substantial jail time.
Yeah. No,
Crazy.
and not only that, I mean, their families are affected. I mean,
Oh, of course.
when you have a crime like this, you have this sends ripple effects.
It's sad. It's a black
It is.
eye for obviously themselves. It's a black eye for the Guardians. And not that the Guardians had anything to do with it, other than
Right.
that's the jersey they put on.
Yeah,
It's a black
exactly.
eye for Major League Baseball. It's a black eye for the industry. It's just ugly.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we have covered pretty much the whole league, the Astros, and just to put a bow on it, I don't think Bregman's coming back. I don't think Tucker's coming back, and I don't think Valdez is coming back. Now, if those three came back, then I say we're going to the World Series. But I don't think
those three came back. Their payroll would probably be pushing about $350 million.
Then you better win at all costs, right?
That's right.
So, well, hey, Mike, thanks for hanging out. We'll be back, later this week to talk more baseball. If more stuff breaks, we will definitely share our thoughts and our opinions. But we've got the expert here, Mike Stanton, the old 2-9er, the lefty out of the bullpen.
There you go.
The guy.
Everybody stay warm. We're having our first real cold snap.
Yeah.
Coming for the next few days. So everybody down here in Houston, actually, it's really all over the country. So it doesn't matter where you're from. It's probably going to be cold.
Oh, hey, you know what? I meant to ask you this. Did you ever have a song when you came out on the mound?
I did. I didn't until I got to New York with the Yankees.
Okay.
And then prior to 9/11, there was an 80s hair band called Aldo Nova.
Okay.
And they were a one-hit wonder. They had one big song. It was called Fantasy. That was the song that I came out to post 9/11. I came out to courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue.
Oh, nice. Look at you. I love it. It. That's awesome. Good job. I'm glad I asked that. Good deal. Excellent. Well, hey, man, Mike, thanks for sharing that. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. Over 100 of y'all watching us live, whether you're on your phone, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on X, or Facebook, YouTube, we're all over the place. So y'all have a good one. And from myself and Mike, we will see you next time.
Adios.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, man, I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat low in the way, you can't hit it. You know you wanna start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walking back, looking like we ain't cool then. The game's over, might as well put on back to the bullpen.